Welcome into my first Royals video of the year. It's a car video, like I used to always do all the time. Leaving the office, heading home. Tomorrow was opening day, so let me see if I can get this camera moved around so I can. There we go. Okay, it's in the little holder. It'll be a little bumpy here. This parking lot is not the greatest. Okay, so opening day is tomorrow. There's been a lot of talk about, what the opening day roster is going to look like by the Royals, the rotation's going to be. Some injuries have kind of put some of that in clearer view. So let's talk. So tomorrow, Zach Greinke is going to start for the Royals. No big surprise there. Greinke's coming back for his second season with the Royals in the second go-around. We'll see if he can build on what I believe is a Hall of Fame career. And if he makes the Hall of Fame, I think he goes in as a Kansas City Royal. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, the rest of the rotation: Jordan Lyles, Brady Singer, Brad Keller. It's actually Lyles, Keller, then Singer. Singer's going to get the start on the fourth game. And then Kris Bubic was named the fifth starter, and that just came out today by Matt Quatraro, named Bubic the fifth starter. Daniel Lynch was kind of the odds-on favorite for a while, but Lynch went down with a shoulder injury, which, 20, 30 years ago, shoulder injuries for pitchers were, holy crap, he's going to have rotator cuff surgery. But not too bad. They think that it's probably going to be a couple months, is what it's looking like, which is unfortunate. So, but at least Singer and Bubic from that 2018 draft class are going to be in the rotation. Kowar is back to the minors. I think Kowar is probably one of the pitchers who is just not going to probably have an impact at all from that draft class. Every time he's come up, he's really, really struggled. I've always been a big fan of his, but he's never been able to translate success at the minor league level to success at the major league level. Some guys just don't. Some guys just fail, and they just never figure it out. As for the players, 13 players on the roster, 13 position players. Salvador Perez, obviously, catcher. I'm forgetting who their. I guess Melendez is considered backup catcher, even though he's going to play a lot. There's going to be some position flexibility there. I don't think they're carrying a quote unquote a third catcher, but I'll have to go back and look again. Pasquantino's going to be your first baseman. I was not big on Pasquantino last year. I thought maybe he was one of these guys that was more of a kind of a quadruple A type player, but his slash line was really, really good, and I'm going to say he's going to be probably the best hitter on the Royals this season. I think he'll probably be an all-star, possibly. Well, sometimes it's hard to be an all-star at first base, especially in the American League. But Pasquantino, I think, is set up to have a really fine season, especially now with the ban on the infield shifts. So there should be more opportunities for balls to get through the infield and for line drives not to get caught by that roving outfielder there. So actually, I think they could probably still do a roving outfielder, but you'd have to use an outfielder to do that, not an infielder. Second base, Michael Massey. Michael Massey he's shown quite a bit of power this spring training. I think he's hit about like 275 or so. So, I mean, he's put up decent numbers in spring training. The power numbers I'm impressed with. Again, it's spring training. Sometimes that doesn't always translate to to when they come north, but hasn't been overwhelmed at the plate. Shortstop's going to be Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt's has had a really nice spring. Has shown some more power as well. Third base is going to be Hunter Dozier to start off with. Hunter Dozier is the whipping boy by a lot of Royals fans. I've never really minded Hunter Dozier, to be honest with you. He got a lot of flack last year, and when you really break it down, he was really the Royals' fourth best hitter last year. Now, that's not an endorsement of him. So, it's more of a kind of talking about how bad the Royals' offense was last year, and so he's going to get the opportunity to start at third base. Matt Duffy has made the roster as well as a utility guy, as well as Nicky Lopez. Lopez is not going to start, and he probably shouldn't. The guy just can't hit, at least not consistently. And when you look at his numbers from the 2021 season, Nicky Lopez, his batting average on balls in play was incredibly high. Last year it was incredibly low. So basically he was more lucky in 2021 than he was in 2022, and that's going to happen for guys that have no power, that rely on putting the ball in play and rely on singles. The thing that I think the Royals are doing a good job of with Lopez by playing him off the bench is that he's a good guy for defensive replacement, and if you need a professional at bat, he's not going to embarrass you. He doesn't strike out a ton, but he's not going to be a guy who's going to hit a pinch hit home run here or there. He's a left-handed batter. Nicky Lopez only hit the ball in the air to right field 7 times last year, and that's one of the reasons why the new management staff is not starting him. He has no ability to hit the ball from any kind of authority or power. He reminds me a lot of David Howard. Old Royals fans, old school Royals fans like myself will remember David Howard from back in the day. So, of course, they traded Mondesi to the Red Sox. Got basically nothing for him. They got a flyer on a relief pitcher. I don't remember his name. Well, that was fun. Well, I don't know how to take this thing out. The whole thing fell out of its deal. So I'll just prop it up here on my gear shift and just talk while I drive. Sorry about that. But yeah, Mondesi was traded for a relief pitcher who is in the minors. The Royals, he didn't make the big league club. Outfielders, I'm a little concerned. I've always been concerned about the outfield because the Royals don't have a ton of talent there. Melendez is going to be playing left field on opening day, and he'll probably get more time in left than anybody else on the roster. But he's not going to start 155 games in left. Kyle Isbell is going to be your starting center fielder, and that's because Drew Waters is on the. So again, another guy starting there. Isbell's never shown a ton at the big league level. He's shown he's a capable major league player, but not as a starter. He's more of a fourth outfielder type of guy. Drew Waters, I was really excited to see what he could do this year. I thought he played very well for the Royals last year after the trade from the Braves. And then in right field, it's going to be Jackie Bradley Jr., who is washed up, but he had a decent spring training and he's made the team because the Royals have no outfield depth, and so they're forced to go with Jackie Bradley Jr., an aging veteran. Franmil Reyes is going to be the DH, an aging veteran who, yeah, he can hit the ball over the wall, but he's going to strike out. If you play him every day, he's going to strike out 180 times, 200 times. And I don't understand these moves. If the Royals are really going to be sold on going to youth and going and playing the guys in their system, playing guys who are cheap, seeing what you have, if you're really going to use this year as an evaluation year, why are you playing Jackie Bradley Jr.? Why? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Reyes I could somewhat see because the Royals just have no power in their lineup other than oh my gosh, this guy had just about caused an accident. Cut over 4 lanes of traffic without looking. That's nuts. So anyway, I'm not a big fan of the Jackie Bradley Jr. Minor league. It was a minor league deal. I didn't think there was didn't think he had snowball's chance in hell to make the club, and now he's going to be starting right fielder on opening day. I mean, I guess is he better than Olivares? It doesn't really matter. Olivares is going to make the team, but he's not going to be starting. I think a lot of this has to do with the injury to Drew Waters, but even past Drew Waters, who else is there to play? The Royals don't have any options. I do think Gavin Cross, who was their number 1 draft pick last year, I think Cross will make the big league club at some point this season. And they say, well, that's really fast. Well, I mean, he was a college hitter. He's 22 years old. I mean, it's what is he just getting you the minors for 4 years? No, come on. If he's ready to go, let's call him up and let's let him play. And same thing with Caden Wallace. You know, Wallace is, I think, a year younger than Cross, but I'm like, just get these guys up here as soon as possible and let's play them. And then the whole thing of service time and blah blah blah. Look, if you can manipulate that to a certain extent, but you got to see what you have in these guys. And I can see that, you know, probably not going to make much of an impact this year, especially Caden Wallace. But I do think Gavin Cross is a guy that could definitely make some hay for the Royals later this year. I mean, it's not out of the question. I mean, in the limited amount of times I saw him bat, you know, watching various highlights, and there wasn't a ton of highlights because video is hard to come by, but, you know, what I could gather, the handful of times I saw him hit bat, I was impressed with what I saw. So I do think the Royals are going to have an opportunity to make a decision on him later. And I think some of this, maybe the whole deal with Jackie Bradley Jr., he might be a guy that just gets DFA'd and just outright released, you know, once Drew Waters comes back. Because Bradley's not going to go to the minor leagues, obviously. I mean, I don't think he can. I think he can refuse any type of movement like that anyway because of his status as I think he's got 10 years of, I don't know, maybe he doesn't have 10 years. I think he came up in 2016, so I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. But anyway, and Nate Eaton has also made the club as well. So Nate Eaton, who kind of is a jack of all trades, master of none when it comes to what he brings to the club. I don't think Nate Eaton's ever going to hit enough to be a starter. I think he'll hit enough to be a 4th outfielder, utility guy. He plays really, really good defense in the outfield. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of Nate Eaton. I think you'll probably see Nate Eaton play left field when you have Melendez go in to catch to give Salvi a day off. And then Salvi will probably DH and Reyes. You don't want Reyes in the field. Reyes is DH or bench. You know, Reyes is a terrible fielder. You don't want to put a plodding, you know, slow outfielder in Kauffman Stadium, which has more square footage than any other outfield in Major League Baseball. So that's something that the Royals will have to get around, you know, is they have a guy that cannot play the field. But fortunately, they have enough guys that can play multiple positions that they can accommodate and they can get around that. Again, I probably wouldn't have signed Franmil Reyes. There were other guys I think the Royals should have gone after instead. Now, they very well could have gone after a couple other guys, but maybe it didn't work out. I wanted them to go after Michael Conforto. You know, coming off an injury, he wasn't that expensive. Let me readjust this camera here, guys. I'm sorry about that. Conforto wasn't that expensive relatively. I thought he would have been a good guy for the Royals to go after, but the Royals didn't even make him an offer. So, you know, and now with the injuries to Drew Waters, and I guess Brewer Hicklin is also dealing with injuries. I didn't think Brewer Hicklin had a chance to make the club, but he has had a cup of coffee in the major leagues. At least he's had a couple at bats, so he's at least talented enough to be on a major league roster potentially, at least to fill in for a while. So overall, I'm not enamored with the construction of this roster. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. The bullpen should be pretty good. Chapman has looked resurgent since he signed with the Royals. We know Scott Barlow is pretty solid. Stalmont got sent down to the minors. I didn't quite understand that deal. I haven't heard if Jose Cuas was the last guy got the last spot in the bullpen or not. But he has a very unusual delivery, and he's very effective in short stints. So, again, I think the Royals bullpen will be decent. The problem is what is the starting pitching going to be? I mean, Greinke is a veteran. Greinke is a professional, and he's going to give you innings. But I mean, Zach's not the Cy Young Award pitcher from 2009. He's not the same kind of guy anymore. And his ERA is going to be around 4.5, and he's going to possibly keep you in ball games. But Brady Sr. was very good last year. Bubic was incredibly inconsistent. Brad Keller has been awful for 2 seasons, but had a really nice spring training. So maybe he'll turn it around this year. I'm not holding my breath. Jordan Lyles is going to be a disaster. He's a disaster waiting to happen. So wasn't a fan of that signing. I was like, the Royals have enough. Turn down the air conditioner here, the fan. The Royals have enough pitchers that they can just throw out there. They didn't need Jordan Lyles. Ryan Yarborough's a long guy who could possibly spot start here and there. He's had a lot of success as a relief pitcher, and for Tampa, not a lot of success as a starter. And we'll see what Brian Sweeney does with him, the new pitching coach, and some of these other guys too. The big thing is that, the development of secondary pitches underneath the new pitching coach, things that Cal Eldred simply did not want his pitchers to do. He didn't want them to develop secondary pitches, a third or fourth pitch. He wanted guys to work with 2 pitches pretty much primarily, and that's just not how baseball works anymore. And so the Royals definitely needed to make a change there. Of course, I'm going to be cheering for the Royals every game, hoping they win. I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell to do any type of damage this year. This team simply lacks the overall upside talent to compete. And I could put out 7 or 8 if-then statements, and if they all came true, I could see the Royals winning the division and making the playoffs. But once you have more than 4 or 5 if-then statements about a team, and all of those are dependent upon, or all of those lead to a team, making the playoffs, and then ultimately guys having career years, that's not a recipe. That's not what you want to build your club around. And I think Contreras, and I think Brian Sweeney and JJ Piccolo, I think they want to get wholesale changes. Last year was a wasted year, since they didn't fire Dayton Moore when they should have. Last year was completely wasted, and I'm not a big fan of JJ Piccolo. I thought he is just the yes man for Dayton Moore. He has made some moves that I have liked. I didn't like them firing Mike Matheny because I thought Mike Matheny was unfairly criticized and unfairly blamed for all of the problems that Dayton Moore saddled the organization with. Now, that being said, sometimes you have to fire the manager to make progress. And I do like Matt Contreras. I like them going out and getting the bench coach for Tampa Bay. I like them getting Brian Sweeney, who was a pitching coach in Cleveland. Both organizations that are forward thinking and have shown the ability to think outside the box, when the Royals thinking has always been pretty traditional for the most part, especially during the Dayton Moore era. So I can see a path where if a lot of things go correct and some of these hitters really take the next step forward, like if Pasquantino and Massey and Bobby Witt Jr. and Melendez, if they all, get better this year in terms of their hitting ability, and the Royals become an offensive force with their lineup and their bullpen, which I think the bullpen's going to be solid anyway, and their starting pitcher can just hold it together long enough to get into the bullpen, I think you could see this team possibly competing for a playoff spot down the stretch. But I don't think that's likely at all. Like I said, I could squint and I could see a possibility of that happening. I think the more likely scenario is Pasquantino is just average. It's just okay. Michael Massey is overmatched at the plate. Bobby Witt Jr. has a decent but not great year. And the aging players the Royals signed all fall in their place like they almost always do. And then the pitching is just terrible, outside of maybe one or two guys. Last year, the Royals won 67 games. They won 65 and 97. I think they're going to lose that many games again this year, if not more. I've heard some people say that they're having the Royals as the dark horse, sexy pick to get one of the 3 wild card spots, and I just don't see it. I just don't see that happening. And I suppose it's possible that if the wild card was a really soft wild card, I could squint and see a scenario. But in order for that to happen, you have to have 2 or 3 teams go off and win like 105, 106 games for the last wild card spot to be soft. Because if you go back to 2017, which was the last year of the Moustakas, Hosmer, Kane era for the Royals, that team went 80 and 82. They finished 2 games under 500. But if the current rules were in place then, in terms of 3 wild card teams, the Royals would have made the playoffs. They would have been the 3rd wild card team that year. And there was an incredibly soft wild card that season. And once you get in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen, because it just, in short series, anything can happen. You can get guys get hot and carry a team through a short series. We saw it with who was the guy, the Tampa Bay hitter from a couple years ago, that he was the rookie who did nothing in the preseason. I can't remember his name, Randy something, I think. His last name starts with an A, but I can't remember. Anyway, but that guy carried the Rays through the playoffs. Of course, we all remember Daniel Murphy carrying the Mets to the playoffs in 2015. You can always come up with examples of guys that just get hot and the other team just can't get them out, and over a period of 3 or 4 games, they're responsible for 2 or 3 wins, the ball by themselves. So anyway, so my official prediction of the Royals, I want to be pessimistic because I'm not a big believer in the moves they made with the players they have. I do like I like the front. I don't like the front office, but I do like the coaching staff that they brought in. So I am a believer in the coaching staff. But baseball coaching staffs, even if they're the best, they might make a difference in 3 or 4 games a season. It's all about talent. It's all about the players, and the Royals simply don't have the players relative to the talent levels of the other teams, even in their own division, and especially in the American League. And for that reason, I'm gonna be a little more kinder, but I still think the Royals lose 90 games this year. I'm gonna have them going 71 and 91, which is a 6-game improvement over last year. But 71 and 91 is nothing to get excited about. That's not a good season. That's not a good team. And I'm not I'm really concerned about the direction of this club. So anyway, if you like this video, please feel free to give it a like. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content. I'm going to try to have a Royals video